Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. My name is Danny. I'm from MarginX, and today I want to share with you how will the structures of decentralized exchange impact the blockchain industry. So before I go further, um, I probably will do a temperature check. Like, anyone know what is blockchain at the moment? I mean, it's a very hot topic, and I think it's very common. But before we step stones, I would like to give you a context and background. Is what is the blockchains we are talking about? So basically, blockchain, I mean, for everyone's sake, even in Google, it's a peer-to-peer network, right? But what is the peer-to-peer means? Basically, is actually a bunch of computers or a server. They go through the information through their computer and to the other computer. So, for example, I tell you A, and then you tell the counterparty B, then the counterparty tell the other counterparty C. So this is the peer-to-peer information transfer. But what if and what are the historical transactions being recorded? We recorded basically a ledger, a public distributed ledger. So all the transactions say, I want to transfer you $800 worth of Bitcoin will be recorded on the blockchain on the ledger. So what is decentralized exchange? We move to our main topics, right? So basically, a centralized exchange would be a information that you directly connect with the centralized server. So for example, you buy your Bitcoin on Binance. So basically you are talking to Binance, and Binance will then broadcast your transactions details to the other counterparties. But for a decentralized network, that will be different. The transactions itself will go to a peer. So let's say I want to sell you something, and someone from the validator node or from the public, they want to buy or sell something on it, then they will come to me. So this is a peer-to-peer network instead of a a concentrated or centralized network. So the common understanding for decentralized exchange would be simple. First of all, no single point of failure, because if the Binance server down, you couldn't log in. But for centralized exchange, even if one server or one node is down, users still can log in and proceed their trades. And transparency, the other thing is non-custody, because your tokens will always be your wallets, and no one can steal from you, and then all this. And then regarding to the type will be AMM, like Uniswap, and they even offer sports derivative these days. So like I said, decentralized exchange are different. So basically they are performing a peer-to-peer transfer instead of a peer to centralized exchange transfer. So what's really going on is every transaction like I mentioned, will be recorded on the distributed ledger. But what's really interesting or really what really interesting about is what's the differences between our or centralized exchange ledger is that before on a Bitcoin scenario, before you make a transactions, you actually know who is your counterparty and what are the objects and even the subjects. For example, how much money you want to send, how much money you want to buy. But for a decentralized exchange, when you make the order, you have no idea who is your counterparty or who are the counterparties or even what's the price on it. So the ledger itself or the structure itself could be different from a traditional distributed ledger like Bitcoin, like Ethereum. So like I said, for decentralized exchange, the major functions is making orders, right? I want to bid something, I want to ask something. So that will comes to a very important requirements of being a decentralized exchange. So basically, you need to have a very high throughput transactions volume to go through. Imagine you saw on the Binance order book, the orders keep refreshing in a millisecond stuff. And not only that, there will be compliance issues and even the high transactions volume requirements and even several special fees to be implemented. So give you a ballpark figures, MarginX just launched 10 days ago, and they have processed around 40 million transactions, which means that on an average day we proceed 4 million transactions. So basically, this is the comparison of each platforms and how their transaction speeds and even the fees and validators. So basically, you can see from the screens that actually none of the current mainstream blockchains or native chains itself couldn't process that much of information and transactions. So basically, the idea is, what if we really want to produce this so-called decentralized exchange on blockchain? What is the solutions and what if that? So basically, we introduce the solutions as subnets. So our idea, the philosophy of subnets is basically a blockchain, but it's more on a subcategory of blockchain, and we call that subnets. And some other exchange, they call that network, they call that parachain or even sub blockchains. So our idea or the philosophy of subnets is different folks for different strokes for different folks. So just like I mentioned, so some are the blockchain network like Polkadot, like Cosmos, Avalanche. They provide these kind of solutions, right? And the idea of being subnets is, there are several features or several strengths. So first of all, is fully decentralized because the validators of subnets and basically the native chain, they could be different, and that provide us a fully decentralizations. And I think most importantly is a high throughput and isolated environment. So like I mentioned just now, if you put 40 million or 4 million transactions on the mainnet itself, currently none of the protocol will be able to sustain that. So imagine on BSC, on Avalanche, 4 million transactions, the whole network will go and collapse. But what if we could use subnets? So which means that on top of them is Avalanche or BSC, and then MarginX was layer 2, but the other trading pair, like Bitcoin, like Ethereum, we are using the layer 3 or layer 2.5. So the transactions go through on 2.5 won't really affect on layer 2 or layer 1. But if they want to do a cross-chain transactions, even some unique transactions like fund transfer, like some exotic translations of funds, they can do that without affecting the native chain movements and activities. So like I said, this sounds like a good idea, right? But is there any real life example? Is there any real life products being introduced to the market yet? The answer is yes. So MarginX actually does that. In fact, we just launched last week, and then this is the idea basically we built as one chain for one pair. So the idea is we'll let all those major native chain like Ethereum, BSC, Polygon, they can actually bridge into the MarginX effortlessly, and then they go through each pair. Like they want to trade Tesla, they want to trade Bitcoin, they can just transfer their funds to that, and then the transactions of that chain on that Bitcoin, for example, won't really affect the activities on MarginX or even Ethereum, but they are able to do the atomic swap, being able to be interacted with each other. So this is basically the order books we have been through. So like I said, mentioned just now, so our distributed ledger or the chain, the MarginX chain itself is different. Basically, as the subjects and the counterparties, they are uncertain. So we actually remodified the whole distributed ledger, traditional distributed ledger, to something that including matching, liquidations, and even fund settlements on chain. So everything can be fully decentralized through a bunch of validator nodes that public can be accessed and built upon that. So I think I showed this slide before. So we have launched like 10 days ago, and we have processed more than 40 million transactions. And if you average is 4 million transactions, I think down to the road, I think we will reach to 10 million or even 100 million transactions. But we believe through the proof of concept of this MarginX one chain, one trading pair concepts, we'll be able to escalate and even scale towards and fulfill the whole requirements of the decentralized exchange. So there are some of the, with this, obviously this is just the first step. And other than that, we hope we can invite more developers such as fund manager, even trust fund, mutual funds. So they can set up smart contract on MarginX, on top of MarginX, and then their funds, their trades, even their lending protocol can be transparent and live and trade beyond the decentralized exchange itself. So yeah, so summary, basically decentralized exchange is security. It's secure because your tokens will only be with you. And secondly, it will be the real-time transparency will be implemented because everything is on chain. And above all, the transactions, even the transaction speed, the matching will be just like centralized exchange, but it's more in a more transparent manner and in a more secure manner. So yeah, that comes to the end of my presentation. Thank you all.